Noisy Pixel.
Hello and welcome to our first Manga Monthly Book Club brought to you by Noisy Pixel. It's the show where we offer 3 books that you should probably read in the beginning of the month, and then in the middle of the month, we talk about it. We expected you to have read these mangas. Sorry. I'm a little excited.
We're a little excited.
I'm here with my best friend, Spencer Legacy.
Hello, everyone.
We are in our Sunday's best.
It's
if
true.
You couldn't tell.
All dressed up to talk about manga.
My lady.
Ma senpai. Ma one-san.
And yeah, so we chose, if you watch the first episode of Manga Monthly, you would know that we have 3 titles that we're going to talk about today. Spencer, I don't want to butcher the names, so please, if you could introduce those 3 titles.
All right, so the first one we're talking about today is Mieruko-chan, Volume 1 by Tomoki Izumi. After that, we're going to be moving on to Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Volume 1 by Hajime Komoto. Then we're going to finish off with Captivated by You by Yama Wayama. All volume 1s, except I don't know if Captivated by You is, because I think it's like a bunch of one-shots.
It's a collection of short stories,
and
anecdotes. I feel like I don't know. We'll get to it. We'll get to it when we get to it. Everyone just sit down and relax for a second.
We're talking manga. You can just sit back,
get your tea, get your little
saison position, as they call it. Get your ochao. Green tea.
Light your incense.
Yeah. And then
trim your bush.
Your bonsai.
I mean, trim your bush could be multiple things.
That could be a little risque. That could be a little bit sus. A little troublesome.
Just chill. We're talking manga.
We're talking manga.
We like to also thank publishers Yen Press and Viz for providing these titles to us to talk about with you.
Guys are great at publishing manga.
So let's go. Hey, let's start us off. Kick us into gear. Kick us into gear, Spencer.
All right. Well, first off, as I said before, we're talking about Mieruko-chan, Volume 1 by Tomoki Izumi. It's about a girl who can see spirits and demons and all sorts of frightening otherworldly menaces. Menacai? I don't know. And she has to pretend she can't and try to ward them off without them noticing so that she doesn't attract their attention. She's the only one who can see them, and that leads to some hijinks in her regular high school life. And that's Mieruko-chan.
So this manga just was revealed to have an anime adaptation coming out. So we'll just preface it that it is successful in that sense,
and then we read it before there was an anime, so
we're a little cooler than people.
We're more fans.
So next year when the anime comes out, just know that Noisy Pixel was in front of all of that.
We were, we read it in the old days before it was for everyone.
Like the people that when you started reading Attack on Titan and then everyone started like dressing up as the characters and you're like, oh.
People who didn't read JoJo years ago, come on, guys.
And then they're like all excited about JoJo, and you're like, I was excited like 10 years ago.
Why was no one talking to me about Steel Ball Run 10 years ago? Yeah.
So that's where this one comes in. But I want to compare this to. Have you ever read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
I read a little bit of it, but it scared me as a child, so I avoided it.
But the illustrations in that regard, I think those match Mieruko-chan. Just the fact that this girl Miku can see spirits, and she pretends not to. And that's the whole gist. She walks around, lives her daily life, seeing these spirits, and she doesn't give them the time of the day because if she recognizes them, she's afraid that they will attack her. Because normal people can't see them. So it's just something that she deals with. And I think she's so courageous in so many ways.
Yeah. Oh my God. Just like one of the experiences she has, let alone all of them, would completely destroy me. But she's like, oh, there's a severed head in my locker. I just have to reach through it and pretend I didn't see it. And it's like, damn.
It's great the way that the illustrations highlight that struggle. Like her eyes get a little watery, and you feel it too. You're like, well, fuck, like what if I was a part of this scary ass situation? And I think they involve her friend in some way where her friend is super like prone to being in contact with these spirits.
Yeah.
But of course she doesn't know.
Yeah, they say in it she has like a strong aura that attracts all these demons. So it's like the worst possible pairing because she wants to help her friend.
So would you okay, so put yourself in Miko's place. Now, a typical day.
Yes.
What does Spencer do?
I wake up, I see something, I jolt out of bed and stifle a scream because I don't want them to know that I see them, but they're gonna know. They're gonna know.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid of things. So, seeing a like torso of a demon in my bed, that wouldn't be a cool Tuesday for me. That would ruin my day, and I'd think about it all day. So if I kept seeing stuff like that, I would just like my brain would be fried within like a week. I don't know. It's terrifying.
I feel like I would take the opposite approach and try to like cleanse these spirits somehow.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Rid them. But that's just, I watched a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer growing up, so that might be that side of me where high school kids are just automatically super powerful.
Yeah, I don't want to brag, but I kind of be like John Constantine. I just kind of like throw salt, like do rituals.
Yeah, typical high schooler stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you guys didn't. I went to Catholic school. We all learned how to exorcise demons.
I love how even though this manga is very scary and very graphic, it still finds time to be cute.
Yeah, and I love how the art style between the moments is so drastically different. Like the cute art is very clean and nice and charming, and then you go to whenever you see a demon or a monster or a ghost, and it's way heavier, the lines are way more prevalent, and it's such like you feel them invading her like cute happy life. I think it's a great contrast,
and I give it up to the artist. I believe the author is also the illustrator in this manga.
Tomoki Izumi.
Yeah, and so I give it to them because there's a lot of different spirits, and some of them are just for like 2 or 3 panels, and then they move on.
Yeah, and they're really creative.
Yeah, so I think that's awesome. I really like that aspect. I think right now there's 3 volumes available in the West, and so if you want to just kind of binge those, I think it's a great series to continue with. Would you want to continue with it?
I would, but I would hope that it changes a bit, just because I don't know how long pretending not to see them can stay interesting. I guess so. Within a few volumes, I would hope that it expands on its idea a bit, but I think it's a really strong basis to start with.
So I've read all the volumes. So I would just like to hear real quick what you'd be looking forward to, and then maybe after the show I could tell you if that's something that would happen or not.
I'd be interested in seeing her become more Azario-esque, more willing to try to. There's hints of that where she has prayer beads and stuff. I'd be excited to see her try to sort of get rid of these problems, and then that would be also like a fun analogy for any like invisible issues people might face. So I'd like to see her take a more aggressive approach, I guess, but I wouldn't mind a bit more of this. Like it didn't run dry by volume 1. The more evasive techniques. I think it's still really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to see her get stronger and fight demons?
I want to see her become Goku. I want to see her just obliterate demons. Yeah.
Just walk through Tokyo with a cross and some holy water.
Yeah. Just whipping it at everything. It'd be great.
They go hard on the demons in this series. I can't explain to you like how like disgustingly horrible these spirits are drawn. Like they are nightmare fuel.
They are.
Definitely.
It's really good. There's a couple where it felt almost Junji Ito-esque, the illustrations.
It is totally. I completely agree. Not to overshadow the brilliance of Junji Ito. But yeah. So, it's a great volume. We'd like to know what you think about this series. If you read it, in the comments below, just let us know your comments, and we'll reply to them there, or we'll address them in the next episode, and we'll just kind of reiterate on some other stuff. But please comment away.
Let us know if you picked it up and checked it out. Now we should get on to our next manga.
Ooh.
Number 2, Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Volume 1 by Hajime Komoto. So in this one, a young character named Mash is born in a magical world where everyone has powers, but he's born without any magic. So he's taken in by an old man who raises him to be insanely strong physically to make up for his lack of magic, until Mash has to go to a magic school called Easton, I believe, where he's trying to become the top student in order to win prestige and money to spare his dad, who was being hunted by the government because he sheltered his son. And it's very comedic as well.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Legacy. Last year, if you asked me if I liked any shonen, I would tell you no. I do not like it. I do not read it. And then I got sucked into the Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck it. Let me just read all the shonen.
See, that's why we're such good co-hosts. I'm the opposite. I'll read every shonen.
Well,
I love it.
You're a little hoe, for one.
I'm a little bit of a shonen hoe. Yes.
You're a little bit, and me? 18 plus for me, please.
Yeah, you're a little bit of a hentai hoe. A little
that rolls off the tongue very nicely.
Right, that's way better. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so besides the volume itself, I also, something that we might not get to talk about, but I want to highlight is the kind of author comments that Hajime-san kind of wrote through the manga, and was just like how to get your manga serialized and stuff like that. It just
he's like realize as an adult it's way harder, but say that I'll give it 2 years and then give up.
I love that, because there's comedic elements to it, but he's being so serious in that he put his life into this, and this isn't his only work. He's done other stuff, and this is probably the one that got picked up for him, and just the excitement. I couldn't imagine the trials of a manga artist. It's probably I've seen documentaries and stuff on it, but you wouldn't know.
It's so insanely oppressive of a work schedule that you have, like Oda Sensei of One Piece. Like, I remember a couple years back, he said that he sleeps like 3 hours a day and that he just draws. It's it's so wild, but I love that insight, especially when he talks about like, oh, in grade school I read Bobo and Gintama, and I'm like, I can totally see that in your manga.
Yeah,
like it's so cool to read about his inspirations and his life journey leading up to putting his heart and soul into this, because it's such a difficult thing, but you can see his passion in it, and I think it's really fun to kind of read it with that insight, because you go, oh, I see that here and there.
I think that's a reason why I kind of liked Mashle so much, is it made me appreciate the little bits of it. There's one of my favorite scenes was when they asked him to fly on a broom. and how he like summoned it was like he kind of kicked it up, and it happened so fast that everyone was like, what? Like, and then to fly, he just threw the broom
and jumped on it like jumped on in Dragon Ball. And they're like, that's cheating. And he's like, no, I'm flying. And
like, no, everyone was like, oh, like no one knew what to think of it. Like, if anybody if anybody had any sense to like actually test him on his magic, he would get called out because he's supposed to hide it. The whole idea is to hide the magic. That he doesn't know it, because if he does get found out, he'll be executed. And in this world, it's like they're trying to limit the non-magic users. So anybody who doesn't have this like scar on their face or something like that from like a magic scar,
like a magic line,
they'll just kill them so that the bloodline kind of ends there. But with Mashle, I forgot her name already, but there's a really cute girl character in it.
Wasn't her name like, it was like citrus or lemon or something?
Yeah, they only showed her for like one scene and then showed her like at the end. But then I realized that like he explains why she was even in there in the first place in one of the comments, and I was like, fuck, like that's what I was thinking the whole time, is what are they gonna make this girl his love interest? And they didn't. And he just included it because someone like asked him to or something like that.
Yeah, they were like, "Where's the heroine?" He was like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll do that."
Super good guy. Super good scenes. It had
me laughing for a lot of it too. Like there was a lot of good cutaways, like the broom, or like when they're playing Quidditch and he just like does a crazy throw to win repeatedly, and everyone's like, "That's not fair." And like every time someone challenges him, they're like, "You can't do anything," and he just punches them in the head.
Yeah,
it's like, it's so funny.
I think that's the part I didn't like too much, is that though everyone keeps telling him how strict the world is, and I get that it is strict, but he gets away with so much.
He does.
And I guess the headmaster has something to do with that, but he fucking buries the vice principal.
That part stood out. Yeah, I was like, how did he get away with that?
And it happens. I guess it kind of turns back to the vice principal was getting some kickbacks from some of the legacy students there. But still, there's. I think that part was a little rushed. They could have thought of another way to resolve that whole situation with bullies and stuff, I'm sure.
I agree with that.
But I liked his new. He made one friend that was kind of like his roommate, the Ron Weasley.
He was like, "God, I hope I'm not roommates with the scary guy." And then he's like, "Hello there, how are you? You're such a pal."
Yeah, Mash has not many lines.
But they always hit. It's always just stuff like, "You're a good friend."
Yeah, he's so sweet. He's such a sweetheart. And the dad his dad really encourages that. Just like, "Oh, you're so pure. You're such a pure boy."
He like breaks the door and he's like, "Why did you break the door?" He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't remember if it was push or pull. I'll fix it and learn for next time." And he's like, "Oh, my delightful son, my wonderful son."
And he's like just shoving it in the door frame the wrong way. Like,
so good.
It's going to be great to follow this character and see how in later chapters he gets away with this crap, because it's just going to get more insane. It's going to get more
ridiculous, and I can't wait for that.
If all of this was in the first volume, and I mean arguably the first volume contains the first chapters that the manga the artist wrote, or the writer wrote, meaning he might have not known if it was going to get picked up for longer than 6 chapters, so now
they're finding their footing.
So now after the second volume, we're going to see like his vision of the character, and he could slow down the pacing a little bit, because already we already have a bully, so I guess you can reuse that as many times as possible.
We have 2 friends, a bully, a goal, 3 teachers, so there's a lot that's been introduced, so now he can kind of just do it.
Yeah, and we can maybe focus on one class instead of like 5 different ones. It's gonna be fun. It's definitely a shonen that I'm gonna invest myself in.
Same here. It's a lot of fun. And I think it's really fun light reading.
Yeah, I think in terms of like comparing it to One Punch Man, I think One Punch Man started introducing a lot of superheroes, and that kind of became its thing. But early on, I can see this being like an early on One Punch Man, where it was just
Saito,
like him
and Gino.
Yeah, just a bare 2 guys. But
the kind of daily slice of life side of it.
But as it expanded, it became something totally different. Now it's just it's
Now
a
it's
whole
all sorts of a wonderful, ridiculous heroes.
okay, yeah, exactly. So I like that this is just focusing on the school and we can kind of just go with it.
Yeah, I'm down with it.
I'm down with it.
I'm down with it.
So let us know in the comments what you think about Mashle if you've read it, or if you're a shonen head like
A little bit of a shonen head,
like our friend Mr. Legacy.
A little bit of a jump head, but for our final manga, it's Captivated by Yama Wayama, and it's kind of a compilation of stories about being a teenager, like being a kind of awkward youth in high school, middle school era.
I have it right here.
There it is. It's hardcover.
It's hardcover. The art, we'll throw some art splashes on the video, but I'd say the art, does it change throughout the short stories? I feel like it's subtle. Some stories are different than the others.
It does feel a bit different. Like it feels like it kind of ebbs and flows between a couple styles.
There's times where I liked it. High school was crazy. For probably everybody. And there's very little that captures just the silly day-to-day stories. I'm sure if you think back in your memory, you'll just remember the big things that happened. But if you really sit and like remember just a random conversation that you had in class that made you laugh, or just some situation that doesn't come to your mind right away. I believe Captivated by You sums up those stories a lot of the time. They star a few different characters that all kind of connect somehow. They all go to the same school, so they'll run into each other. There's no timeline. I didn't feel like there was a general timeline. No,
I feel like they could be in any order, really.
Yeah, it's an all boys school, so there's no female characters. And I don't know. It's so charming and just so like.
It's so charming.
It's so cute. It's sad. It's sad sometimes, and you kind of there's one about bullying, and that I kind of liked, especially the end where it doesn't resolve the issue. I feel like there's a story about bullying that doesn't necessarily resolve the issue, but it leaves it in a sense where we've all been bullied in high school. And typically there's no resolve because you still see that person at school. Even if they stop bullying you, you're still living with that. And like, I think the ending of that kind of showed that, yeah, he's still gonna run. He's still gonna deal with it in some ways.
It wasn't unrealistic. Like it didn't have him stand up to the bully and the bully goes, "Wow, I didn't know that." Yeah. It was like he kind of lashed out and the bully was like, what the fuck is this? And like, that's it. Like, you could picture him being in that same situation again, or you could see him kind of growing from it. And I think that makes it a lot more realistic in terms of how high school works than most stories would be in that situation. And I think that applies to a lot of the stories, like the one with the weird kid that everyone was creeped out by, who was actually super handsome. Yeah. But he was intentionally weird because like he had one bad experience with girls and he was like, okay, I have to avoid them from now on. Like that's, like having that one thing happen that makes you like, I don't want to date or I don't want to hang out with people is that kind of thing is so relatable, where something happens and it's such a small thing in retrospect, but in high school, it's like, wow, that's the biggest thing that's ever happened to me. So there's so many moments, like it's such a charming series. It has so many moments that just made me go like, yeah, that feels right. That feels like that's how high school works. Yeah, and there is a lot of
text in it. But I don't think it tests you on your grammar or tests you on your creative thought process. It
very accessible.
But it also doesn't feed you it doesn't feed you the story, the narrative. You do have to kind of play with it in your head and get what you want from it. And I really like that about it, because if you ponder it, you can tell that these stories might have happened to the illustrator or the writer, and because they feel so personal, in some way or another. And the one story that I liked was because the all boys high school was like a middle school and a high school put together, so you had a big range of like ages of boys. But there was that one where the artist guy wanted to draw the there's so many characters, sorry I forget their names, but he wanted to draw him, and that was probably my favorite. That was probably my favorite. Just the way that short story brought all the characters from the previous stories and made the whole school feel like whole, like made it feel like, oh, I know that guy. Oh, I know that, like, oh, there he is. I know this character. Yeah. And then it goes into the bullying thing. And then it goes into the character who has bad luck that you brought up. And it kind of just builds off of it. And
then he goes on vacation for a school trip. That was my favorite, I think, just because it was so ridiculous.
Yeah, because it switches mindsets too, like that. So you introduce the guy that was stalked or whatever and had the bad experience, and then the next chapter shows it through his eyes and like kind of explains things from his point. And you're like, oh,
all sorts of coincidences, and he's like, everyone's gonna think I'm creepy. Like he accidentally paper cuts him, and everyone's like, you're gonna get cut if you're near him. And he's like, oh no, it's so good.
Yeah, like the guy compared him to a Junji Ito manga.
Oh yeah, and he had to Google who Junji Ito was. Yeah, and he was like, oh, that's kind of mean, but he's not wrong.
Yeah,
it was so good.
But I do recommend it if you do enjoy really thought-provoking short stories that you might not get from some of these larger serializations. And I haven't looked at Wayama.
I think it's Hayama. Yeah, you're right. Wayama.
Other work. So this kind of opened the door. So I'm looking forward to reading more about this.
Yeah, if you want to re-experience your teen years in like a different world, essentially.
Yeah,
it's a really good way to do that.
The in-between bits of the big things that happened, those day-to-day conversations that impacted you maybe more than you thought did. Mm-hmm. I think this kind of reemerges those.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
And that's our 3 manga.
And that's it.
That's
episode in the bag.
Bag once again.
How do they do it?
How do they get 3 manga and talk about them in such an interesting way? It's like I read it myself, but it inspired me to read it. Wow.
Revolutionary.
We're the shakeup YouTube manga needs.
So guys, viewers, listeners, please let us know in the comments kind of manga that you're looking forward to that maybe we should add to the book club. We'll probably include new volumes every month. I like to focus on volume 1s and one-offs just so we can expand our horizons a little bit. But if there's one, maybe an older manga that we should check out, let us know. And we'll add maybe we'll add a 4th one, a legacy manga.
Oh my.
A Spencer legacy manga.
They're all going to be shonen from 20 years ago.
I wouldn't mind. You gotta introduce me to how good shonen is. Because I dropped off of that ship. But I'm back on it, baby. Bought a ticket, first class.
Chilling in the lounge, reading Jujutsu Kaisen.
A little green tea.
Little ochao. Cup. Delicious.
Thank you so much for watching and listening and being here with us. It's awesome that we get to be able to do this with you. So let us know anything in the comments below.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Bye.